Awesome. Thanks so much, Maggie. Hi, everyone. Again, please say hello in the chat if you're just getting here. And then just to reiterate, those of you who just came in a little bit late, we are having a pretty bad storm today in Atlanta, and my power just went off a minute ago. So if I disappear for any reason, I'll be right back. So let's go ahead and get started. So thank you so much, Maggie, for having me. I'm really excited to deliver this workshop. This is our second part of a three-part workshop. And if you were able to attend the first one, let us know in the chat. It was all about branding fundamentals. I'd love to hear if we have any repeats in the room. And if you didn't attend that workshop, I highly recommend go back and visiting that because it's got lots of really good information in there. All right, so some quick housekeeping. So this talk will be about 30-ish, 40 minutes, and then I'd love to leave it up for Q&A at the end. So as you have your questions, go ahead and put them into the chat, as Maggie said, or in the Q&A section, and then we'll open it up for Q&A, and I'm happy to answer any and all questions at that time. All right, let's see. Okay, so we have someone who did attend the first workshop. Awesome, welcome to the second one. So this would be a good builder off of that one. Fabulous. All right, to not distract myself, I'm going to shrink the chat and I am going to move this video out of the way so that we can get moving. All right, so let's get this party started. So first, if you attended the first one, some of this might be repetitive for you, so please stay with me, but I had a feeling that we would get a lot of newbies here today. So I really love to set the stage with any of my talks about branding and marketing to talk about why this is important. 83% of female founders report, air quotes, communicating the value of what they do is one of their biggest struggles. And you'll learn a little bit about my background here in a second, but I mean, this is really one of the biggest obstacles for most entrepreneurs is what you do is valuable, but communicating that to others, right, is always a big struggle. So if you feel that way, you're not alone. 83% of other female founders feel that way too. So don't worry about that. Differentiation is always a topic of conversation for any business, big or small. So not only how do we communicate our value, but then how do we showcase that we're different, right? Even the big companies I've worked with have issues with this just as much as the small guys do. And what's important to know, particularly for marketing, is you have to crawl before you can walk. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but these are just a few. Marketing mistakes are really costly, as I'm sure you can imagine. And we're not just talking financial costs, we're talking about the underlying emotional and physical cost of really not knowing the basics. And so Maggie and our goal for putting together this series is to really cover some marketing basics that most business owners skip over. We're so ambitious about growing our Instagram following or growing our email newsletter, and all of that is great and wonderful, but there are some key fundamentals that if we don't really understand those, they will inform the rest of our marketing decisions. And so that's kind of what we're going to be going over today in our second session together. So sort of just some general ways that marketing mistakes are costly. You could be marketing to the wrong people. I see that all the time. Next, you could be confusing your audience with mixed messages. I see that too. And then failed launches and campaigns oftentimes lead to really bad brand experiences and fatigue. And then ultimately, if we really don't understand the basics, we lay a cracked foundation for our company. So I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this to share that marketing, everyone knows that marketing is important, but oftentimes we don't really know why. And this is one of the big reasons why. Okay, so a quick intro for those of you who didn't meet me last time. So just a quick little bit about me and we'll jump right into it. This was me about 10 years ago. I was raised by a single mom. I'm a daughter of a hairstylist. My mom's been a hairstylist for 30-something years. My hair has been every color under the sun because of it. I'm from a tiny little town called Orange Park, Florida, which is just a small suburb right outside of Jacksonville, Florida. I was a bartender forever to put myself through school. And in this photo, I was definitely fresh out of college, with no plans, tons of debt, no clue. I had no idea what I want to do with my life. I double majored in communications and design, but I did not go to school for marketing. And I really like to share that because oftentimes a lot of founders think that those of us who are good at marketing have like these magic, we come from this magical unicorn planet or something. And that's not the case. Marketing can really be learned. And lucky for us, women, we're damn good storytellers. And that's really the basics of marketing, is to be a really good storyteller. So I think it's important to share from my perspective is that I was never classically trained, never went to formal school. I learned everything just by doing and learning and failing. Through a series of interesting events, I became an entrepreneur, and happy to tell you about that later if you're interested. And then kind of my work now has really run the gamut from working with big global brands. I've worked with TEDx Women, I've worked with Stanford University, Red Bull was my client for a while, as well as Girls Who Code and some other big brands. I've also done some pretty very rewarding work overseas with the European Union and the US Department of State, where I would help build global programs to bring entrepreneurs from Europe to the United States to help them gain market share. It's a really, really cool experience for me. I love doing it. It was with a nonprofit. And so now I'm a two-time entrepreneur. The first one was by accident. Second one, this one now, is by choice. My current company, So House, as Maggie mentioned, is a educational platform that really specifically helps early stage female founders wrap their arms around this marketing thing. We have a membership, we have a mastermind, we have an accelerator, we have a lot of really great programs to help women really figure this marketing thing out. Let's see. That's all I wanted to share there. And at the end of the day, I'm really humble and thankful for all the experience that I've acquired over the years, and it has never been easy. Entrepreneurship is a road less traveled for many, many reasons. As you all know, being here, you probably own your own businesses or want to own your own business. And so my goal with my company and just moving forward is to help women shorten their time frame by which they have to learn, right? It took me 10 years. Hopefully it will not take you that long. And that's what we're here to do with So House. Okay, I also always love to share my why. I just love teaching and educating. And I specifically love working with female business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs. Some of my beliefs is that I believe that marketing does not have to be so damn complicated, because it is unnecessarily. Yes, so I believe that all business owners should have the tools and opportunity to build business they love. And then lastly, nobody wins a prize, right, for building businesses by themselves, right? We glorify the hustle, and it's just totally not how we build our businesses. We build them through community support, mentorship, right? Much like through organizations with savvy ladies that are providing education and support. So those are kind of my belief system. That's a little bit about me. Okay, so now that I've introduced myself, let's dive in. So today's session is all about marketing metrics that actually matter. And when Maggie and I were chatting about what we wanted this series to look like, I find in our community and the women who we work with through our programs is that there's just so much information to digest, right? Like, should we be growing our Instagram? And if so, what follower count do we need? And what are conversions, and how do we understand our website metrics? I mean, it's just goes on and on and on. And so my goal today is to have you make sure that you're looking at the right numbers and not getting distracted with shiny ball syndrome, as most all of us founders do, where we get distracted on the wrong thing. So today I'm going to teach you really the core metrics you should be looking at from a marketing perspective. Right. And so one of the most challenging aspects of being a business owner is knowing which activities and interests you need to be putting your time into. And the hard truth is that a business cannot grow without marketing. So, right, all the different channels, where do we start? And as I said, you start by not getting caught up in the confusion of it all. And this number one thing here on the next slide is the greatest confusion of them all. And that is that follower count does not equal success. So give me a yes in the chat if this resonates with you. If you have this love-hate relationship with social media, follower count does not equal success. And if you struggle with this, I'm here to liberate you. One of the biggest marketing fallacies is that you have to have a giant social media following to be successful, and that is simply not true. Of course, logic would dictate that the more people you have access and influence over, the more people will see your business. Yes, this is true. However, I know as women, a lot of founders in our Soho House community feel so much pressure to grow their social media, to be the face of their brand, create reels, like do all the things. And it's leaving them feeling really stressed out and overwhelmed. I can literally count an endless amount of women that I know who have super successful businesses, and they sometimes have less than 1,000 followers or even less than 500 followers. And that's because they've recognized that there are other channels to grow their business besides social. And so don't get me wrong, I'm not here to lay down the hammer on social. Social is an absolutely a definite tool that's very powerful to help you scale, but it's not the only way. And so that leads us to the 4 C's. And this is really kind of the bulk of our talk today. These are must-know marketing metrics. Please take a screenshot of these things, and we're going to go through them one-on-one. So of all the data you could look at to understand if your marketing is actually working for you, the 4 C's are the place to start. And as I mentioned before, a lot of people think that, marketing is really just, those of us who are good marketers just have this magical thing about us, and it cannot be transferred. And again, that's really not true. Yes, some of us are more magical than others, but really the best marketers embrace the math. And so that's what we're going to go through today. And so the first metric that you really have to understand is CAC, also known as customer acquisition cost. Give me a yes in the chat. I'm going to bring up the chat real quick if this is familiar to you at all. And if it's not, that's fine. Just give me a yes. Give me a yes or no, actually. Wait while you guys do that. Give me a yes or no in the chat. Nope. Okay, perfect. No, no, no. Awesome. Okay, yes. Okay, a few more. Yes, yes, yes. So we're about 50-50 so far. Okay, fabulous. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay. So customer acquisition costs, also known as CAC, is how much to the penny are you paying to acquire your customers? And I will give you lots of examples here to show you how to do this, but this can be tricky. This one specifically can be tricky. And this is why. We know that our customers experience our brand across multiple platforms. For example, someone can follow you on social media. They can also subscribe to your newsletter. Then maybe they attend a webinar or a free event, right? So it's really hard to quantify the value of all of those touch points. So the best place to start to really understand your customer acquisition cost is to be able to quantify the numbers that you know you're spending. So for example, are you running $500 a month worth of ads every month? And if so, how many leads is that $500 yielding you? That you can easily see, right? Through clicks and analytics and all that type of stuff. You can easily see, I spent $500 and I got 50 leads. I just made that up, but right. So customer acquisition cost is all about figuring out how much you are paying to acquire a customer. It's very rare that our customers will come to us completely free of charge. That is, unless you have a very strong referral network or leads are coming to you by way of others. If that's the case, your customer acquisition cost is really low, which is wonderful. And overall, what we want to see here is that the lower your customer acquisition cost, the better. And the reason we want to see a low customer acquisition cost is because the lower we can get this cost, and then the goal is to be able, at the end of the day, you want your customer acquisition cost to be lower than what you are selling, right? So I'll give you a really good example here at the end for Soho House, but I'd like you to really kind of think about this right now. Do you have any idea how much your customers are costing you to acquire? And if you don't, that's okay. This is a really good opportunity for you to start thinking about that. And the way that you do that is you add up all of the funds that you are dedicating to marketing, because those are marketing functions to acquire customers. So if you are paying someone to manage your social media account, for example, that should be applied towards customer acquisition. If you have ads, definitely towards customer acquisition. So kind of in your own time, we don't have time to do an exercise today, but really kind of start to brainstorm and write down what are you paying for to acquire customers? And that will start to give you a general idea of what your customer acquisition cost is. And by doing this, let's say that you have a customer acquisition cost of $150, for example, but your product is $50, right? You're $100 in the hole for every customer. That's not a sustainable business model. So that's why we really want to start to understand what our CAC is from an early stage, and it will inform decisions later. And again, I'll give you really, really good examples here in just a second. So the next one I want to share with you is CLV. So CLV stands for customer lifetime value. Give me a yes or no in the chat if you're familiar with this term. I'll wait while you guys do that. Okay, we have a yes. We have a no. We have a no. Okay. Okay, perfect. So the customer lifetime value, no. Okay, the customer lifetime value is basically what is the total amount of revenue we can project that we think that we will get from this customer. So let me break this down. It is the average lifetime value of our customers. We all want to think that our customers will stay with us forever and ever and ever. But the reality is that they're usually not going to stay with us forever, right? So they could stay with us for 10 years. If you have service-based business or something, they could stay with us for 2 years, 5 years. So that's really what CLV is trying to figure out, is based on what you sell and what your products are and what your type of business you have. What is the general expectation of the total amount of money that customer will spend with you over time? So this is a super complicated formula, and I'll break it down for you here in a second. But you basically, the easiest way to do this to calculate customer lifetime value is to add up all of your potential services or products that your customers will likely buy from you. So here's an example. Here at SoHouse, a lot of our customers come to us through our membership, right? That's our entry level. It's $397, right? For a year membership. So pretty affordable, pretty low barrier to entry for most startup founders. They can spend $400 a year on marketing education. Okay, so a good majority of them upgrade at that point to our Lucy Lab Accelerator program. This is almost $3,000 for the entire program. So that's a big jump. Our members get a discount, of course, but in any case, so we can see with our historical customer data that most members come through our membership. They like what they see there. They get involved. They're like, yes, I'm ready. I really want to do this next program. And then they buy this next program. Okay. Then after that, this is a new product we're launching. Some of them are now our graduates of that program, now want to jump into our Mastermind, which is kind of like an advanced membership. You know, once you've got the basics down and you've kind of got a general idea of your strategy and your go-to-market and what you're doing, now they're going to join the Mastermind to continue with their accountability and 6 months worth of coaching, right? So those are 3 distinct product offerings that they have engaged in. And so if a customer were to purchase all 3 of those, the total value of that is roughly $4,500. So what that tells me is that one member, if she were to engage with all of our products, her ultimate customer lifetime value is about $4,500. And what that tells us is it gives us two really big flags to look at. One is it helps you make sure that you're not overpaying for your customers. So if your customer acquisition cost is $150, but I know that my customer lifetime value is upwards of $4,500, that means that it's okay for me to spend this $150 investment in this customer, because if I do my job right and they enjoy our services and our products, I could eventually get this customer right to that $4,500 mark. Does that make sense? I know I'm going to be throwing a lot at you today, but that's really kind of why we do this. And, you know, if you introduce more products, then of course your customer lifetime value would increase over time. And we're going to talk about retention here in just a second. So CAC, customer acquisition cost, and CLV, they help us make sure that we're not overpaying for our customers. Okay. Number two, this ensures that the economics of our business is really viable, as I mentioned before. If you pay more for your customers than they are worth in return, you do not have a business model that will sustain you, right? Your business will go into the ground. That's basic business 101, right? Sell more than what it cost us. And it's the same thing for marketing. It works the exact same way. If you have a product-based business and it costs you $10 for all of your inventory and shipping and all the things, and you sell it for 20, great, you've got a successful, profitable business model. If it costs you $10 to inventory all the things and you sell it for less, you do not have a successful business model. It works the exact same way with marketing. So I want to give you guys a really good example of this and a personal example. So last year, 2020, House, we engaged with a local Atlanta agency here that we love, and we still have good relationships with them to run an ad program for us. So our ad budget was about $600 a month, which is pretty hefty. Like that was a really big budget for us at the time. And that did not include the money that we were paying to retain the agency. So that was just our ad spend. And then we also had to pay them their retainer to manage our ads. Okay. So you have to add that into customer acquisition cost. That is because I'm engaging with this agency to help us acquire customers, right? That's the goal. So basically they would create ads for us on Facebook and Instagram, funnel them to a free masterclass, which I would deliver. And then at the class, this is a very traditional webinar model, I would invite them to join our membership, which at the time was only $29 a month. We did not have the Lucy Lab Accelerator at the time. We didn't have the Mastermind, and we didn't even have the annual membership for $397 that we have now. This is going to be important here in just a second. So remember that. So the ultimate conversion for me was they joined our membership at $29 a month because that was our MVP. We were brand new. That's all we had at the time. So that's what they could buy. So our conversion rates for our ads were great. So our click-through rates were really high. Our conversion rates to join the masterclass, the webinar, were really high. And we would even convert to purchase 10 to 26%, which is really high. So the strategy actually looked like it was working by all marketing metrics. Like they're clicking on our ad, they're signing up for the webinar, and then about 30% of them would attend the webinar, which is about average, which is, what you can expect. And then of the 30% people who would attend, we would convert 10 to 26% of those people to actually buy the membership. So at surface level, it looked like it was working. The problem was that even though our conversion rates were good, our economics were not sustainable. And this is why. The purchasing amount of that $29 membership was too low. So when you add up the cost of the agency plus our ad spend, we were paying way too much for this customer. That financial model, that $29 a month meant that member had to be a member for at least 6 months before we even turned a profit on that customer. Not sustainable, right? It didn't make any sense. So this led us as an organization to make a big change in our financial model. These are the few things that we did after we learned this. And I did this for about 4 or 5 months, just to kind of test it and make sure that, 1 month wasn't an anomaly or there wasn't some, weirdness. Once I saw consistently kind of what the metrics were, I saw, okay, we're just paying way too much money for this customer. And, at $29 a month, on a recurring subscription model, someone could join for a month and then cancel. So there's no guarantee that they'll even be here for 6 months. Of course, we hope that they enjoy our services, but we can't control that behavior, right? So with all that in mind, this led us to make a few changes. We raised our price to $39 a month for a variety of reasons. One of the big pieces of feedback from our early customers is that y'all are just way too inexpensive for what you're offering and the value that you're giving. You need to raise your prices. So that was our MVP launch. So we raised our price by $10 a month, which again isn't, catastrophic, but it did put us kind of on par with other memberships within our space. So that was our first change. Secondly, we moved to a quarterly and a yearly subscription model. So while the monthly rate is $39 a month, we bill at a quarterly or annual subscription model. And that's because we know based on our customer acquisition cost, someone needs to be a member now. They need to be a member for at least 3 to 4 months for them to be profitable. So when we require them to commit to a minimum of 3 months, that purchase is already in the positive. Does that make sense? Give me a yes in the chat if you're following. And I'll keep an eye on that here in a second. So yes, perfect. Okay. So then, right, we introduced our yearly subscription. So now we know for sure, we pay a certain amount for our customer acquisition cost, which I'll share here in just a second. And then they buy the annual membership for $397. We're already in the positive. We're in the green for that customer. Okay. So we're going to circle back all to this in a second. So stay with me. So 4 C's, we have CAC, customer acquisition. How much does it cost you to acquire a customer? And then CLV, customer lifetime value. What is the total projected amount of money if they bought every single thing in your product suite that you could expect that customer to spend over a certain period of time? Okay, the next C to think about is CRR, which stands for customer retention rate. So usually this is one that you will only know after a while of kind of being in market. You have no idea what your retention rate is until you actually start selling something, right? So definitely keep that in mind. So what is retention rate? Well, it's how long do they stay around? So if you're a service-based business, do they engage in your services repeatedly? Do they purchase a membership and then do they upgrade to the next thing? Or if you're selling a coaching program, do they take your coaching program and then go to the next thing after that, right? So like, do they engage with your services repeatedly? And if so, for how long? And then for product-based businesses, do they come back and buy your products again? So perhaps an easier way to figure this out is instead of adding up how many customers come back to us, which you could also do, you can add up the amount of people who do not return. And that will give you this answer as well. By knowing this, you can figure out of those customers that you have over a certain period of time, you can figure out how many of those people have left, right? And that'll also give you your customer retention rate. How many of your customers do you retain over a certain period of time? And again, this is kind of an advanced data point, but it's a really good one to know because if you know, for example, so again, I'll use SoHouse. I know that our customers stay with us for at least a year. Some of them are almost on to 2 years now. So our general retention rate is anywhere between 12 to 15 months. So, and that's before we've launched the Mastermind, which will hopefully convert them, right, to stay longer and engage with this other program. So if I know that our customers will stay with us for minimum 12 to 15 months, I'm going to be okay with investing a bit more into acquiring that customer because again, I know that on the long term that they will eventually surpass how much I've paid for them, right? Their customer lifetime value will be more. And so if you know what your retention rate is, it helps you figure out the sort of the economics of your financial model. In general, right, retention rates could look very different. There's kind of no set formula. We have a member who just finished our Accelerator. Her retention rate is 98%. I mean, that's like astronomical, right? She retains 98% of her customers. That's phenomenal for her. She offers something really specific to a very unique target group and a very niche customer. So again, just something to kind of think about. If you have a product-based business, can you look in your CRM? Can you go back to your customer data? Can you see how many of them are purchasing things again and again and again? And that gives you an idea of your retention rate. Okay, so the 4th C is conversion rate. I saved this for last because it's one of the best metrics to think about, especially in the early stages. Your conversion rate is the percentage of customers who convert to do some meaningful action. I said this earlier when I said that, remember those free webinars I had mentioned before that we were doing here at SoHouse, that we converted 10 to 26% of those people. That's our conversion rate. So conversion rates can mean many different things. You can offer an ebook to download, a free ebook, right? And you can easily see how many people have viewed your form. and divide that by the number of people who downloaded, and that gives you your conversion rate of the form, right? So it lets you know from a marketing like in that particular example, it lets you know, wow, this form is working really well, right? Like this form is really converting very high. So I should invest more time and energy into promoting this said form. So for example, we have like 4 or 5 different ebooks here at Sew House that we like to share and distribute, and we have on our blogs and other things. We have one lead gen source. I'm actually going to share it with you guys today. It's one of our favorite ones. And that converts at such a higher conversion rate than the rest. I mean, it's just like, it blows the rest of them out of the water. And what that helps us understand is it helps us understand what our customers are looking for, what their psyche is. It gets them into our lead funnel, and it allows us the opportunity to nurture that customer and hopefully get them to engage with us at some point during their journey. So conversion rates, right, could be a form download. It could be a webinar attendance. It could be, I mean, so many things. If they take a quiz, it could be, maybe you have an email list and you provide a link to your Calendly for someone to book a free consultation with you. What is the conversion rate of that link? How many people click the link and how many people actually book the phone call with you? That is the conversion rate that you're looking for. And if you can start to track these, you'll start to have a really good understanding of like, ooh, this marketing channel is working really well for me, and this one isn't so much. So let me invest. If I only have a certain amount of dollars to invest, because I'm a startup, right, and we don't have tons of disposable income, let me invest that into the one that's converting more than the one that's not converting so well, right? So of course, the ultimate conversion that we want is a purchase, right? Like we don't want to keep converting free stuff, or else our, our business will not be viable. But there are different layers of conversion is the point of my whole ramble right there. Is I wanted you to think about, do you have anything in the marketplace right now? Do you have any ebooks that are out there? And if so, do you know what the conversion rate of them are? And if you don't, this is a really good opportunity to start. Are you doing webinars? Are you offering your products through your newsletter, and are people buying? And if so, what percentage of them are buying? And that will tell you your conversion rate, and that will tell you what's working for you and what's not. And so I want to kind of go back to the easiest place. If you're not sure, if you're like, okay, I get it. Where do I start with conversion rates? The easiest place to start is with email marketing. And the reason that is because most email marketing providers are going to show you your open rates, your click-through rates. You're going to be able to see who opened them, how many times they opened them. So it's very simple to do the math, right? There's not a lot of extra noise happening. On social, for example, it's really hard to quantify conversion rates, right? Like there's just so much at play there. So it's best to start with a channel that you can really isolate and see specific metrics. So again, I'll give you the newsletter example. In that newsletter, you include that link for your Calendly or whatever, book a free consultation, show up on my calendar, how it is that you position it, right? You want to take the amount of people who opened up your email. Of those people who opened up your email, how many people clicked on the link? And then of the people that clicked on the link, how many of them actually booked a call with you? And if you're finding that people are opening up your email and they're clicking on the link, but they're not booking a call, that gives you an opportunity to say, okay, like what's happening there? Maybe there's something on my Calendly page that I need to reword. Maybe there's 4 steps to book a call with me when I can easily do it in 1, right? So it just gives you really good micro data to figure out, how do we bring down the barriers for our customers to engage with us? That's ultimately what we're trying to do in our marketing strategy. Is we're trying to break down as many walls as possible to make it easy for them to engage with you and easy for them to buy. And so your conversion rates will tell you where you're doing that and where you're not. And I'll say this too, we test conversion rates all of the time. This one is kind of like a metric that always shifts and changes depending on what you're testing. So what's important to remember about conversion rates is that There's no really solid rule to doing this one way. It's really about experimentation. It's about being willing to put out an ebook into the world and put a tracking link on it through Bitly or, whatever it is that you're using to track that link. And then to just see like what's happening. Are people downloading this? If so, at what rate? And then once you know that, you can then make decisions following that and then iterate and iterate and iterate. So conversion rates are something that are kind of always changing and you're always testing. Whereas the other ones don't ship-shape too much once you kind of figure them out. Okay, and then I wanted to give you a bonus one to also think about. Is another metric is an obvious one, which is profit margin, but a lot of businesses don't really think about this. So, I've hammered on it a lot today, right? The basics of any successful business, as I said before, is do you sell something for more than you pay for it? So, and again, this is the case, and this is the case with marketing too. If you pay more for what your customer is worth, it's not a viable business model. And then once you have a general understanding of the 4 C's, you can calculate your general profitability of that customer. And this is a really easy formula. So to figure out profitability, what you do is you take your total revenue. So what is the value of the thing that you're selling? And I'm going to give you an example for us. So the revenue that they've purchased, so the purchasing price basically of that item or service, you subtract the customer cost for that, divide it by the revenue, and times it by 100. And that gives you your general profit margin. So let's do some quick math. So right now for Sew House, it costs us in general $61 to acquire a member. This is that member, as I mentioned before, that's valued at $397, right? So, and again, like this is really hard for us to quantify right now with like social. So based on our general sales and marketing budget, right? It cost us on average $61 to acquire a new member, right? $61 is less than $397. Perfect. We're not paying too much for our customers. So that's green light number 1. So then what we do is we take the amount of revenue that they've purchased, $397 for the membership, subtract it by 61 following the formula. Then we divide it by the revenue, $397, which gives us 0.84, right? Multiply that times 100. That gives us an 84% profit margin. That's excellent, right? So that tells us that the economics of our marketing strategy is working. And this is how I figured out before, whenever we were paying $61 for a customer and they were only buying $21 or $29 worth of membership, right? You could see now the profit margin was way in the negative, right? So that's why we made those changes to do the quarterly membership to get the customer to commit more. And or the annual membership as well. Okay, so are your brains hurting? If they are, that's okay. Please let me know in the chat if you are like, does this make sense to you? Are you feeling super overwhelmed? If so, that's okay. We're going to open up for questions here in just a second. And I'm happy to kind of walk you through some quick on the fly math to sort of figure this out for your business. Okay, this is good stuff. Thank you. Awesome, good. Okay, so if your brain is hurting and you're feeling super overwhelmed, what I'd like to say is I did not learn this whenever I first started my business. Okay, we were just building stuff and selling it. So my first business. And so, you're not going to get this right out the gate. Like, no one knows this. Like they don't really teach this in school. Like this is just something that you just figure out by doing. So my hope is that if this is new to you, this will give you a leg up to your competition. And it'll give you kind of a really good place to start. Okay, so the last thing I kind of wanted to share, and don't worry, I'm not going to make you do this formula. I want to let you in on a really important secret that I learned a few years ago. And below here, I've taken a screenshot of all of the crazy formulas that you can use to calculate customer lifetime value. And if you remember, it's the total amount of potential value you could extract out of a customer, right? So no wonder we're all confused, okay? Like these formulas are impossible. So what matters most in customer lifetime value, and this is the secret, is its retention. It's your retention rate. And I will explain what this means, is it means that mathematically, no matter how you slice and dice these formulas, retention is the R in these formulas is the #1 variable that has an effect on the total income. So let's break that down. What this means is that most small business owners really kind of obsess over new customers, which is great. That's good to do. But then we forget that we actually, once we have current customers, how do we retain them, right? How do we keep them engaging? How do we bring them back? How do we increase the retention rate over a period of time? So if you are able to increase your retention rate over a period of time, it has the most effect on your customer lifetime value. And retention at the end of the day is the secret weapon to scaling, right? It's really the secret weapon to figuring out how do we replicate our marketing channels and our marketing strategies over and over and over again to really scale this business. So that's really the big secret I wanted to tell you is of all the things you can be figuring out, retention rate is what will have the most amount of impact on customer lifetime value over time. And so what's really cool is that in this scenario, it's so much easier to keep a customer that you already have, right? Assuming you're delivering on your product and your value, than it is to convert a brand new customer. Once you already have someone who has paid for your product or service once, getting them to come back, assuming that they enjoyed it, right, is so much easier than trying to get a bunch of new customers. And that has the biggest effect on your ability to scale. And so a really good way, to make this abundantly clear that I like to use is, to reach into my restaurant pocket from when I bartended is, we have new customers lining out the door to, come and like experience our happy hour or try our new drinks or whatever. But if we're not feeding the customers who are already in the seats, right, they're not going to come back. And that's going to hurt the business model the most over a period of time. So if you've got customers, focus on the ways that you can continue to engage your customers at this point, and then you'll set yourself up for success. I want to give you a really tangible example of this to kind of get your creative juices flowing, because there's tons of ways that you can retain customers. You can do loyalty programs, coupon codes, VIP events. I mean, it's just like endless how you can retain your customers. So my friend Emily, she owns an earring business. She creates these super beautiful handmade earrings from clay. And she only makes a certain amount. One, because she's a mom. And she's like, I just have no time to be making like hundreds of these. And that's just how it's going to be. So she's very unapologetic in the fact that she only makes a few in her collection, and that's it. And so that generates exclusivity, which has helped her business tremendously. It's kind of like if you liken going to Home Goods. I don't know if you guys have Home Goods in your area, but it's like one of my favorite stores ever. When you go to Home Goods, right, they trick us all because we know for sure that there's this lamp there or there's this piece of artwork or something, and you're like, oh my God, I have no idea if this is going to be here in 2 weeks. I better buy this right now. Right. And so that's kind of what Emily is playing towards as well. Home Goods does it on purpose, right? Emily does it because she just doesn't have time to create a bunch of earrings, but it creates the same effect. So it's the same thing. So once Emily gets her customers to buy, what she does for her existing customers is that she opens up her online shop for them to do like a VIP shopping first. And she calls it VIP hour. And it's literally an hour that people put on their calendars that they don't miss it. One, because they know that she only has a certain amount of each pair that she's just decided to make. And every collection is different. Like one collection, she might feel floral, the next she might feel like something else. And so it's very much driven by her and her creativity. And so to bring her customers back, she gives them the opportunity to buy first and to get anything in the shop. And then an hour after, customers can buy anytime, but an hour after that, she opens up the shop to the general public, and then they kind of get what's left over. So it's a really good opportunity for her. And she's created insane customer loyalty because these customers want to come back because they want to get the first, but because they know that they're going to sell out because she only has a limited amount, right? So that's just one example. So I hope that's kind of, getting your creative juices flowing and kind of have you think about how you can generate customer loyalty more over time. Okay, so I know I said a lot. I'm going to open up for questions. I know we have about 10 minutes left. So I'm excited to take your questions here in a second. I shared this quote last time, and I really want to share it again. And that is that entrepreneurship is jumping off of a cliff and building the plane on the way down. So again, I say that because, we're not going to have all the answers all at once. We're not going to, we're going to fail a lot and make a lot of mistakes before we figure out what's really working in our businesses. And so the sooner you can embrace that, the sooner you can get to a really good place where you're really making awesome strategic decisions about your business based on core metrics and numbers, which is really the meat of the potatoes, if you will. Okay. And of course, what's it take to be an entrepreneur? Hard work, dedication, the occasional ugly cry. Of course, it also takes resources, support, and mentorship, all of which I'm sure you guys are getting definitely from Savvy Ladies and other organizations you're involved with. And so if you guys like this talk, this is how you can connect. This is how you can get connected to us at Sow House. If we resonate with you, or if marketing and branding is something you're really struggling with, these are just a few ways you can connect with me or us after this. So of course, I'd encourage you all to check out our membership if this is something that you're interested in looking into. It's evolved a lot over the years, but basically the highlights are our members get access to our Sow House Vault, which is our entire library of marketing courses, workshops, marketing guides, all kinds of stuff, templates. We also host member-only fireside chats, which is with like amazing women entrepreneurs. We're also building a mentor and a membership directory so that you can get connected to experts and other marketing people within your field who can specifically help you with your needs. We have a private Slack channel and some other things. So definitely check out the link if you're interested. Happy to talk to anyone about this if the membership sounds right for you. Of course, we also have other things going on. If membership isn't your thing, and that's okay, we host free marketing masterclasses. These are 90 minutes. We only host one a month. They're totally free and open to the public. So anyone is welcome to sign up and join these. These are recorded and uploaded into our membership vault, which is super convenient for our members. You can just kind of log in there and watch them as you can on your own time. So we also have our formal marketing accelerator program that I mentioned earlier. This is exclusive to female founders, and it's a six-week intensive with me. So this is really for that founder who has a very clearly defined product or service, and she really wants to just like get in market and do all these things at an exponential rate. That's what the Lucy Lab is for. So you can check that out on our website. And then, as I mentioned before, we also have our 6-month marketing mastermind, which is really for more what we call advanced members. These are for women who feel like they've kind of got the basics down and now they really want accountability and they like really want to get shit done over a period of time. It's a 6-month commitment. So that's what we're launching as well in the summer. So that's kind of everything we've got going on. At minimum, I'd encourage you to sign up for a free class. You can go on our website and look at Masterclasses. We have one coming up this month, so love for you to be there. Let me see. And I will include the link here in the chat if anyone's interested in signing up, interested in the Mastermind. I will put it here because we're actually in beta right now and we're taking applications. It'll open up in a few weeks. So if group coaching is your thing, this could be a potential for you as well. Okay, so this is the freebie I wanted to give you for tuning in, and then we'll open up for questions. This is we talk about conversion. This is our highest converting freebie that we have. And I'm not surprised because it's amazing. And it's basically a customizable free a brand guideline template. So it's like mission, vision, values, your logos, like how do you concisely put your brand together visually in a way that's easy, that makes sense. We have a PowerPoint and Google Slides. So this is awesome. I highly recommend just downloading it. Freebie link above. So I put that in the chat. So you're welcome to download that and get access to that. So it's a good template to have. Okay, so now we'll open it up for Q&A. I'd love to hear your questions. I know we only have a few minutes and I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. So Maggie, how do you want to do the Q&A portion?
Okay, thanks, Jess. We can open it up for Q&A and I'll direct everyone to use the chat box or the Q&A section, and we can keep track of that. And Jess, I did see a question that came in that was asking if you have a tip for me when someone tells me that I need to grow my social media following to grow my brand. I appreciated that you shared follower count does not equal success, but there are still so many people who think
Yeah.
it does.
Oh, that is such a good question. So being a marketer, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I'm so honest about that. I mean, I like my personal Instagram because I could talk about mom stuff and things that I care about, but it's really good to understand that these platforms have been designed to work against you in some ways, unless you are paying to play. And even then, the platforms are really hard to use. They've evolved so much over the years. So this is what I'll say to this. Social is important. It is a way to build brand awareness. It is a way to generate trust. You know, we've invested a lot of time and energy into our House Instagram, which we just launched not too long ago. And we take our follower account really seriously. We do audits, right? So we're invested in that as well. However, I think the confusion is that a lot of people think that social is the only channel to grow. And that's where I would advise founders to put some time and effort into social. And in particular, two things. Pick a platform that your customers are already on. And that's really the biggest confusion, is that most women we're like, oh my God, I got to be on Clubhouse and TikTok and Facebook. And like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. So one is, know your customer and know where are they spending time online, right? If you're a B2B business, most likely LinkedIn is going to be your jam, right? If you're selling products, Instagram or Pinterest is going to be your jam. So just knowing where your customers are and where are they engaging online, that's the number one thing. And then the second thing on social is, what platforms do you genuinely like? So a really good example, if you go to my Twitter, it's like abysmal. I'm never on there because I just don't like Twitter. It's just not my thing. I don't enjoy being on the platform and I don't have time. So I'm not going to invest time in there. I do enjoy Instagram, and our community of female founders, there's a rich community of women entrepreneurs on Instagram. So it's a channel my customer is on and I like it. So checks the box. Now I should invest time into Instagram. So hopefully that sort of answers your question. It does build brand awareness. It does generate trust. It's a very long timeline though. And so that's the difference. Most founders, we don't have 3 to 4, 5 years time to invest into this channel. And so if you are going to invest in social, great. I would make that a lower priority in terms of conversion. There's a lot of other platforms, like email marketing is one, partnerships is another, that you can invest more time into and just kind of slowly grow your social over time. So I hope that helps. I hope that clarifies.
Okay, thanks, Jess. I think that was really very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Here's another question for you that says, if I'm currently not spending a lot of dollars to acquire customers and it's more about my time spent networking and booking speaking engagements, how would I measure that for customer acquisition cost?
Great question. This is a hard one. Effectively, you would evaluate how much is an hour of your time worth, and then you would quantify how many hours do I spend a week on biz dev? How many hours do I spend going to events? How many hours do I spend intentionally networking, right? And then you would add up that time. And you would be amazed at how much time we spend on these things. So this is where, so if you really truly want to follow the formula to the T, right, that's what you would do. And you would find out that you're probably you're paying way too much for your customers. So however, I'll say that. And then the second thing I'll say is, when we do stuff like that in the very beginnings of our business, it is absolutely fine and okay to do that at the beginning and then figure out what are ways that we can optimize our customer acquisition over time. So if you are doing that, anyone else listening, I don't want to deter you from doing that because you're like, oh my God, it's so expensive, it's not going to work. Oftentimes in the beginning, we do things that are not sustainable. We're losing money in our businesses at the beginning, and that's okay to an extent. So I think what's important to know is I would quantify your time so that you can just get a general awareness of how much time you're spending on sales and biz dev. And then what are those people buying? You know, if you add up all your time and you're spending $500 a month on customer acquisition, but if you can close a client for 6 months for a $2,500 program, awesome, right? You're in the positive. So quantify your time. And if that scares you and you're like, oh my God, I spent so much time doing this and it's costing me so much money, that's okay in the beginning, right? Because we want to learn. We're going to do a lot of things at the beginning of our businesses that are not scalable. And as I said, that are going to put you in the negative. That's okay, especially if you are learning and you're getting those early customers and you're figuring out what's working, what's not working, and then you can pivot and iterate along the way.
Great. Thanks, Jess. It looks like we have one more question. And if you do have a question now, again, you can use the chat box or Q&A. Just this question is saying, if customers are on my e-newsletter list, they're not continuing to book services with me, but I can see which emails they're reading and not reading, or clicking and not clicking. Is that tracking the customer retention rate? Can you talk a little bit more about this and some other things I should be looking at for emails?
Sure. So the answer is no. Customer retention rate is after they've purchased. What is the rate at which, unless you're saying that your email list are customers, you might want to clarify, or is this all people on your email list? So customer retention rate is the frequency and the rate at which they continue to engage in your services. So if I understand the question correctly, if the email list is just customers, then that gives you an opportunity to figure out if they're not buying from you again, why might that be? And you know what? A lot of times, like it could be so many things. A lot of times women, and of course I'm speaking very general, but we oftentimes think like, oh man, like they're not buying from me, my whole business must suck, right? Or like this whole thing I have to throw into the trash. And that's not the case. There's a lot of different reasons why people buy or don't buy. It could be timing. I mean, it could be so many things. So that gives you an opportunity. If you can see customers who have not purchased again, what I would do is I would start having phone calls with those customers. I would set up interviews with them, and you're not trying to sell to them. That's not what you're trying to do. It's something that we call customer discovery. You're trying to just learn from them. Hey, I saw that you purchased this thing. Like, can you tell me a little bit about your experience? You know, we have this new program happening, or we're doing this new product, or whatever it is. I noticed you haven't engaged with a brand in a while. Like, can you tell me more about that? And you're really just there to learn. And through that learning process, you'll find out what are the barriers that are holding people back. And then you can start to create new content or a new strategy to remove those barriers. So I know we're at time. I could expound some more, but hopefully that gives you some parameters.
Okay. Yes, I think it does. Thank you so much, Jess. And so again, Jess's contact information is here on the slide. We'll be sending it out in a follow-up email along with the resources that Jessica shared. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And I want to thank you, Jessica, for an excellent presentation. Thanks for going into these marketing metrics with us in a lot of detail and sharing very helpful information for all of us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. If anyone has any questions, you can email me anytime. Follow us at Sohel Sync for marketing branding tips. And if you're into mom stuff and memes, you can follow me at Jessica Korthuis as well. And then yeah, my email and our website is there. Feel free to reach out at any time.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jess. I'm glad your internet worked with us today.
Me too.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.